Pull up a chair and join the conversation anytime between 2 and 6. It's Montreal Now on CJAD 800.
Welcome back, 3:35. By the way, thanks to all the texters. So we were talking about Zach Galifianakis, and I'm saying when I heard he was going to be in Only Murders in the Building, I would watch just to see him because I'm such a big fan, especially with that show Between the Ferns. People letting me know, I said it'd be great if he had a politician on every now and then, but they would never come on. Both Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have been on Between the Ferns, so I got to go back and watch. Thank you to the texters for that. So here's some news. If you're a foodie, yesterday it was announced that the Michelin Guide is making its way to Quebec. We become the third locale in Canada after Vancouver and Toronto. Toronto, yeah. So let's find out what this means, because again, this is not Montreal, this is all of Quebec. Lesley Chesterman, food writer, former restaurant critic, of course, is on the line. Hey, Les.
Hi, Aaron.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Is this exciting news or not?
You know, it's funny. I think it'll be more exciting when the guide comes out and we see who they give stars to and not give stars to. But it's actually, it kind of was bound to happen because after Toronto decided to have a Michelin Guide and Vancouver kind of felt a little bit weird that Montreal wouldn't, fall in line as well. The thing is that it costs a lot of money to have Michelin come and do a guide for your city, and it's even probably more so because they decided to do the whole province, which was a very smart, great move. So I think the thing I'm most excited about is they decided not to just do Montreal like the other, the others just really went for Toronto and Vancouver and left out a lot of great restaurants around the cities. But here they're really going to try to cover the whole province, which is the best part of this whole thing.
So to get to that part about money, because it seems to me when Toronto ended up with a Michelin, they have one or two Michelin-starred restaurants in Toronto, I think?
Well, yeah, there are several that got, I think there are about 5 that got one Michelin star, and one got 2 Michelin stars. And I think it's a little controversial because it actually was I believe it's a Japanese sushi restaurant that's, kind of a lot of money was poured into that restaurant. And why I say it's controversial is that at the end of all this, if Canada ends up with 1, 2 Michelin-starred restaurant that turns out to be a sushi place, I mean,
really,
what does that say about Canadian cuisine and all the work that's been done with kind of local produce and everything? But I don't think there'll necessarily be a 2 Michelin-star restaurant here in Quebec. I mean, it would be a big surprise if there was, because the standard for a 2 Michelin-star and a 3 Michelin-star restaurant are a huge investment and very, very, I don't want to say pretentious, but very, very refined haute cuisine, in this realm of, oligarch cuisine a little bit. So it's extremely expensive when I say oligarch.
Can you sort of fill in the blank on this one? Because I'm not sure, I don't think anyone understands that, this is not Michelin deciding to wake up one day and saying, hey, we hear the food in Quebec is really good.
Yeah.
You pay money. How does this work? Who's paying them to come here?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because that was always, a lot of people were writing to me and saying, oh, why is it that Toronto got a Michelin Guide and we didn't? I'm like, because Toronto paid a lot of money to get it, And now, there was an article, I think the Journal de Québec that I just read a while ago that they said over 3 years, it's over $2 million. Now, as much as that sounds like a lot of money, and it definitely is, just imagine, and having done it for 20 years, that, I would go out and review restaurants, but only in Montreal and a little bit around Montreal, but basically Montreal. Now, if they're going to send inspectors all over this province, hopefully everywhere, they also claim to visit a restaurant many times before finalizing review. And they're paying all their own bills because Michelin, a great thing about them is they pay their own bills and they're anonymous when they go to review. That is a huge undertaking. I mean, they do it in France, but that's different because they've been doing it for 125 years.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of restaurants out there, and I don't even know how they would start going about that. But, that's their mission, and that's why they're being paid all that money. So as much as we think it's a lot of money, it might be money well spent.
I'm curious, too, what earns you sort of that distinction. You talk about, I don't want to use the word shishi, but refined maybe is a better word to use. But if someone is using, to what you said earlier on, good local products and making amazing food, do they not even have a chance of becoming a Michelin-starred restaurant?
They definitely do, but Michelin came out with I think they have like 4 criteria. One of them is that they're respecting local produce. They're using great cooking techniques. One of them is the personality of the chef, which I find very interesting. Because if you look at a restaurant like Milos, there's no executive chef at Milos. It's really the figurehead of the restaurant. So does that mean that restaurants like that, they really want chef-driven restaurants? And then another one is consistency of the menu. They don't even mention service. But one thing about Michelin that is very true, because I've worked in a Michelin star restaurant in France, is that service is very important to them. And that, I think we have great service here in Quebec, but it's not this kind of hoity-toity French service that the French really do very well and is kind of fun when you're in those restaurants. Here, you can't really get away with that kind of service. We're much more of a laid-back restaurant scene. I think we have very good service here, sometimes better than in France, but it's not that kind of super formal thing that we see in Europe. So it'll be interesting to see the way that they analyze restaurants in Europe, how it will translate to here.
So you've had a chance, lucky you, to eat in some of the better restaurants around town over the years. Anybody here now, and I know the restaurant scene has changed considerably, anybody here in one of those chef-driven restaurants, as you said, who would have a chance, in your estimation, to get a Michelin star?
Yeah, I think we'll be looking at maybe less than 10 one Michelin star restaurants, but certainly if you look at restaurants like Le Mousseau, which is a very chef-driven restaurant by Antonin Mousseau-Rivard, he really wants a Michelin star because he says he really wants rich foodies who travel the world to come to his restaurant.
Sure.
He has a menu that's $250 a person. So he is really ambitious to try to get that super high-end fine diner there. So he might be looking at a Michelin star. I mean, he plays rap music in the background of his restaurant. So I don't know if the Michelin guys or gals will be into that, but let's see. A place like Tokay certainly has always kind of followed the really fine dining atmosphere. So that might be, I find the food at Tokay kind of goes through ups and downs. So if they get them on and up, they're definitely eligible. They're looking, maybe at a star. I think in Quebec City, there's a restaurant called La Tanière, which also has made it very clear that they wanted Michelin to come, that they're very ambitious with that kind of food. And I think there's another great restaurant in Quebec City called Arvi, A-R-V-I, and I ate there last fall, and they really have a very special, very gastronomic experience without it being, silverware and crystal goblets. It really is just very refined. And actually, the chef there is from France, but he really does work with local produce. He even owns a vineyard. That could be another Michelin star.
And it's worth noting as well, when you talk about people who really, really want to get it, I mean, the revenue attached to that, you talked about the guy who would have people from around the world coming to eat. There are people who do that, right? Who will come to a city and look for those, right?
Absolutely. There are people, when I travel, I've started looking at the Michelin Guide, not for the Michelin starred restaurants because I'm not that wealthy, but they have another category called the BIB restaurants, which they did in Toronto and Vancouver and they will do here, which are good restaurants, good value for money restaurants, that, might interest more people for kind of daily eating or not for that super duper special occasion. That said, Aaron, I'm going to say something terrible. But I think Montreal restaurants are going to really have to pull things together because lately I've eaten in some restaurants post-pandemic, and I find that I've had some really expensive meals that weren't so great. So maybe with Michelin coming in, they'll tighten up their work a little more. They're still having problems getting staff in restaurants. So many chefs are just completely overworked and exhausted. They are, look how much we're paying for groceries these days. Yeah. So they're paying a lot for ingredients, but it's going to be up to the restaurants to really deliver too. And a lot of them don't even care. A lot of them are saying to me, I don't care about Michelin. It's not my style of cuisine. More power to them. I think a lot of local Montrealers don't really care. It really is more from people for out of town. But, if you want to know where to eat in Quebec City, you might be interested in looking what Michelin says. Or, let's say you're traveling outside of the big cities. If you want to find some great restaurants in the regions, that's a great reference too. So it might affect all of us.
Yeah, that's interesting because that was going to be my next question. Outside of Montreal and Quebec City, the two biggest cities, right? I mean, they're coming to Quebec, and I imagine they will go out to the regions. Is it likely? Do you have an idea as to whether there are actually restaurants out there in some of these smaller towns that would have a chance to become Michelin starred?
Yes, I used to spend a lot more time traveling around and finding some of these restaurants, and I think there are some very good restaurants, like one called Chez Saint-Pierre, which is in Le Bic, which is about a 6-hour drive from Montreal, which is fantastic with a very good chef, a woman called Colombe Saint-Pierre, who's very dedicated to using local products from the St. Lawrence and, all kinds of stuff. She's quite amazing, and she's not alone. There are a lot of people who do really nice work in the regions. They have a lot of problems, though, finding really good staff. It's good if you're using regional products, but let's not forget we have winter, so they might be closed in the winter. There are a lot of people who are cooking outside of the city. I went to a great place in Saint-Sauveur, Le Baumier, which a really nice wine bar. But, a wine bar is not a Michelin-starred restaurant necessarily. There are a lot of people who ask me about Vin Mon Lapin. So maybe, that was rated a best restaurant in Canada, I believe, for 2 years in a row with the 100 best restaurants. And they could be too, but are they a Michelin-style restaurant? I don't know if they're really that style of restaurant, but do they need Michelin? They don't. They're great on their own. So, I don't know about this getting all these, French companies to come in and evaluate us, but it's kind of no avoiding it anymore because they're an international brand.
Listen, I appreciate, and by the way, for people trying to jot down all the names of restaurants that you just mentioned where they can go for dinner, who they didn't even know existed. Thank you for that. I want to ask you just really quickly about the story yesterday, Farine et Cacao, if that's how you pronounce it.
Farine et Cacao, okay.
Winning the Pastry Discovery Gem Award. Do you know this place?
I don't know that place,
okay.
But I always wonder with these, I really just heard that myself. I don't know who the people are who gave this award. But there are a lot of good pastry shops in Montreal. My favorite really is one called Rhubarbe, which although it's closed right now, they're on vacation. But I will definitely go and investigate. That's always a fun thing to do. And congratulations to them.
Yeah, and last thing
I don't know it, but I want to get to know it.
Before I let you go, you are a crazy baker, and you have some wonderful books for people who did want to try doing this stuff. You want to tell them where they can go online to find one of your books?
Oh, yeah. Well, my books, the English book is called Make Every Dish Delicious. And I do have the Substack called Lick My Plate, which I'm always putting more baking recipes than cooking recipes because I love to bake. And, we can all cook, but baking is more fun. And eating those cakes is a lot of fun, too. So
yeah, no, we can't all cook. Where do they go? Where do they go
I know about
online?
you, Aaron, with the bag salad. I know about that.
All right, yeah, but I know how to open that bag pretty easily now.
Nobody opens a bag of salad like
Thank you.
Aaron.
Where can they go online to find this? Just go to
it's Substack. So Substack is a bunch of writers who are on their own, and you can subscribe, and there's a lot of free content, too.
Cool.
And it's just Substack.com, and it's called Lick My Plate. But if you do Lesley Chesterman, you'll find it, too.
Terrific. Lesley, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron. Take care.